Okay, so let's start our unit on decimals. Alright, so what you're looking at is the place value chart, and this place value chart continues to head this direction and this direction, but these are just some of the most commonly used place values that we want to talk about. Notice that everything to the right of the decimal has THS. That's important. If you're going to name something that's to the right of the decimal, that's this direction, then you need to have a THS on the end of it. If you're going to name something on the left, you don't have the THS. Okay, it's pretty important that you read through this page, so I'm going to give you a chance to read through it. If you need a little bit longer, make sure you hit pause. Okay, so according to the last page, it said that you name everything to the left of the decimal, then you name the decimal, and in order to name the decimal, you use the word and then you name everything to the right. One thing that I'd like for you to realize with this, let me go back to this page, is that to the right of the decimal starts the tenths place. This right here is the tenth. There is no such thing as a oneths place. No such thing. Okay? Alright, so let's take a look at A. So this would be called 4 and 3 tenths. Okay, and I went ahead and added the picture up there so that you could see this. So we had 4.3. Okay, so our next number, what we have on part B, 2.45. 2.45. Notice that that 5 ends in the hundredths place. So in order to write this one properly, you would say 2 and 45, and wherever the 5 ends, that's the place value that you have to put down, hundredths. Okay, so let's look at part C. 0.009. 0.009. Now, you don't have anything ahead of the decimal or to the left of the decimal, so we don't have to write anything. All you have to say is 9, and where does the 9 end? It ends in the thousandths place. So you would say thousandths. 9 thousandths. Okay, so let's look at part D. Negative 15.571. So we've got negative 15.571. Now that negative, it does not hold a place in the hundreds place. I just put it there so that I wouldn't forget it in my final answer. So I'm going to say negative 15, and don't forget your and where your decimal is, 571, and where is the 1? It's in the thousandths place, so I'm going to say thousandths. Okay, on this one, we're going to write this down in numeric form. So write 14, so I'm going to put 1, 4, the word and means decimal, 37 hundredths. So that means I want the 7 to end in the hundredths place. Okay, so I've got 14 and then I want that 7 to be in the hundredths place, so right there, and the 3 has just enough room for it. So it would be 14.37. Okay, on this problem, write 24 thousandths. That means I want that 4 in the thousandths location. So I want the 4 right here. And I want 20 in front of it, so 2 in front of it. And you can't just have nothing there, so you've got to bring your decimal down, and then you can't just have a blank space, so we've got to put a 0 in there. And anything ahead of the decimal, we would put a 0 there, 0.024. That says 24 thousandths. Okay, so to write these numbers as a fraction or a mixed number, so on part A, I've got 4.09, which is the same thing as 4 and 9 hundredths. So 4 and 9. And I always remember it by saying, okay, this has 2 decimal places here, so I have to have 2 zeros on my 100 there. So that's one way to write it. The improper fraction, as you know, would be 100 times 4 is 400 plus 9, so 409 over 100. On part B, we have 3.7, so that's the same thing as 3 and 7 tenths. That's one answer. That's the mixed number. If you want the improper, remember, just multiply the 10 times the 3 and add the 7. Really, as far as this question is going, we're actually looking for this right here. I'm just showing you how to change that into an improper as well. Okay, on part C, what you need to remember here is that you have a negative sign in front, so that's going to follow you around to the end. So our answer will be negative, and I've got 286 that goes on top, and I've got 3 decimal places. That means I need to have 3 zeros in my final answer, and then make sure that you reduce. So I would ask myself, does 2 go in? Well, they're all even, so for sure 2 goes in. So let's take a quick thought and think about it. Does something else, possibly a higher number, go in? I don't think so. So we're looking at dividing the top by 2 and you get 143. Divide the bottom by 2 and you get 500. So this right here is what I'm looking for. Okay, as far as number lines go, it says to locate 0.4 on the number line. Well, it just depends on how your number line is numbered. So it's pretty easy to do if you start at 0 and you number these by tenths. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, and so on. So this one happens to be numbered by tenths. So it's pretty easy to locate 0.4 on the number line. It is right here. And if you're ever asked to locate something, all you have to do is put a dot at its location. Now, what if the number line had been numbered, I don't know, something like this? Then you could still approximate where 0.4 is. It's not quite to 0.5, it's about right here. And then you would need to label it on top if you had to estimate where you thought that it was. Okay, so if you're asked to locate negative 0.74 on a number line, notice this one it's negative, so my number line is going in the opposite direction. So where would negative 0.74 be? So it's going to be past negative 0.7, not quite to the halfway mark, but really, really close there. And so make sure that you label. If you have to estimate, always label. Okay, whenever you're asked to order decimals, what you want is you want the decimals to have the same number of decimal places. And if they don't, just put zeros in order to have them have the same number of decimals. So on this problem right here, if I'm looking at part A, I've got 0.64 and I've got 0.6. I'm going to put a 0 right here after that 0.6. And what you do is you look at each place. We're going to look at the tenths. Those are the same. Now let's look at the hundredths. And 4 is bigger than 0. So I would put my greater than symbol there. Whenever I look at 0.83 and 0.803, they don't have the same number of decimal places, so I'm going to add a 0 here. And I'm going to look at each place. That and that are the same. This 3 is bigger than this 0, so I'm going to put my greater than symbol there as well. Okay, with negatives you have to be really, really careful, because even though 8 is bigger than 1, now we're on the negative side of things. Things that are on the left are smaller than things are on the right. So let's take a look at these. I'm going to put both of these on the number line. So here's negative 0.1 and here's negative 0.8. And notice how negative 0.8 is on the left of negative 0.1. So negative 0.1 is greater than negative 0.8. And if you think about that in terms of money, and negative signs being money that you owe, so would you rather owe somebody 10 cents or would you rather owe somebody 80 cents? And you would rather owe somebody only a dime. Okay, I think that this might be a good place for you to hit pause and take a look at this and read through it for me. Okay, I put that picture back up there because I want you to see 18.379, and we're going to round that to the nearest hundredth place. So 18.379. Now, what you want to do, according to the previous page, you want to locate the hundredth place. And the hundredth place is right here. Now what you do is you look immediately to the right of the hundredth place, and let's underline that. If that number that I underlined is 5 or greater, you have to round the number that where the arrow is up 1. If that number is 4 or less, you just drop it and you don't change that number where the arrow is at all. So to round this to the hundredth place would be 18.38. Okay, so now we're going to take that same number, we're going to round to the 10th place. So I've got 18.379, and I'm going to point to the 10th place. I'm going to put an arrow right there, and I'm going to underline the one immediately to the right of it. Because the number I underlined is 5 or greater, then I have to round that 3 up to 4. So part A winds up being 18.4. Now if I'm rounding this to the nearest whole number, I am going to do this instead. Okay, so I'm going to point to the whole numbers place, and I'm going to underline the 10th place. Because this number 3 is less than 5, I just drop everything to the right. So part B would just be 18.